the United States is going through a labor storm that no one can hide anymore. In recent weeks, thousands of families have woken up to the same news. Their job has vanished. Not because of an accident, not because of a managerial mistake, but because of a chain of economic decisions that is reshaping the country's labor market from the ground up. The hardest blow comes from Walmart, a company that for decades was synonymous with stability and employment. More than 25,000 positions disappear in a matter of days. Hundreds of stores close their doors, leaving entire communities without their main source of income. In many small towns where the supermarket is the economic heart of daily life, the closure of a Walmart marks the beginning of the end. When that engine dies, the gas station, the pharmacy, and the small family-owned restaurant eventually fall with it. Executives speak of modernization and operational efficiency, but the reality is far harsher. Sales stagnate, consumption weakens, and automation advances without restraint. Self-checkout stations replace human employees, and decisions are made by looking at cost spreadsheets instead of the lives behind each number. The most worrying part is that Walmart is not the exception. It is the rule. In less than a year, companies once seen as invincible are cutting staff at a dizzying pace. Amazon, Google, Boeing, Intel, Disney, Meta. The list keeps growing. In total, more than 350,000 workers have been laid off since the beginning of the latest adjustment cycle. What once seemed like isolated events now looks like a structural crisis. The Trump administration insists this is merely a transition phase toward a stronger productive model, but the facts point in another direction. The tariffs imposed on imports, rising energy costs, and high interest rates are producing the opposite effect of what was promised: a slower, more expensive economy with fewer jobs. The case of Amazon illustrates it clearly. During the pandemic, the company experienced unprecedented growth. It hired hundreds of thousands of workers, expanded its logistics centers, and presented itself as the face of a new era of digital prosperity. Today, many of those warehouses are half empty. More than 14,000 employees have been dismissed, and many others work under temporary contracts or reduced shifts. Robots take up more space every month, and the corridors that once held hundreds of workers now echo in silence. The decline in consumption is felt at every level. Seattle, the city that grew alongside Amazon, is watching cafes, daycares, and restaurants close one after another. Corporate districts are dimmer, and small businesses that depended on the constant flow of employees are barely staying afloat. In the tech sector, the panorama is no brighter. Alphabet, Google's parent company, laid off 12,000 workers. Not because of a lack of profits, but because of a shift in strategy. Artificial intelligence is advancing, experimental projects multiply, and human labor becomes expendable. Paradoxically, the same engineers who built the algorithms that revolutionized the digital world are now victims of that revolution. At Intel, the situation is even more alarming. The company eliminated 15,000 positions, the largest cut in its history. New chip plants in Arizona and Oregon operate below capacity, and the global market leans toward Asian manufacturers that are cheaper and more efficient. What was once a symbol of American technological leadership now struggles not to be left behind. But the crisis does not stop with the tech giants. Boeing, an emblem of national industry, faces a critical scenario. With more than $50,000 million in debt and a reputation damaged by safety issues, the company announces the reduction of 12,000 jobs. Production delays multiply, international contracts fade, and each dismissal drags down dozens of smaller suppliers that depend on the aerospace chain. Even in entertainment, where money once seemed endless, the signs are unmistakable. Disney cut 7,000 jobs and suspended animation and series projects. Theme parks are emptier than ever. A single day at Disney World can cost nearly $800 per person between tickets, food, and lodging. The average family simply cannot afford it anymore. The inevitable question is, how did we get here? The answer is not only in corporate balance sheets but in the economic policy of recent years. Trump bet on a closed economy with high tariffs and promises of reindustrialization. But in practice, production costs skyrocketed and companies began moving operations abroad. What was supposed to be a national boost has turned into a boomerang hitting American workers directly. Inflation offers no relief, credit is more expensive, and families take on debt just to make it to the end of the month. The middle class, once the backbone of the country, is on the verge of collapse. Savings evaporate, purchasing power weakens, and confidence in the future deteriorates. At the same time, automation expands unchecked. Companies justify layoffs in the name of efficiency, but the underlying motive is clear: cutting costs and maintaining profits in an increasingly fragile market. Artificial intelligence replaces human tasks, algorithms decide who stays and who goes, and the promises of modernization translate into massive unemployment. The social effects are already visible. In industrial cities like Detroit, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, protests grow. These are not partisan demonstrations, they are expressions of desperation. Families that lived for decades on stable employment now face total uncertainty. In many cases, there are not even alternative jobs to pursue. The narrative of economic success collapses under the weight of daily reality. The same counties once considered the productive heart of the nation are now marked by unemployment, poverty, and shuttered businesses. And the problem goes far beyond numbers. It is a crisis of national identity. The United States has long defined itself as the land of opportunity, but today those opportunities are fading. What remains is a market dominated by monopolies, algorithms, and corporate decisions made thousands of miles away. Trump argues that tariffs are necessary to protect the American worker. Yet data shows that this protection has become a trap. Companies pay more to import materials, consumers face higher prices, and real wages stagnate. Instead of strengthening industry, these measures are weakening it. The perfect storm is already formed: persistent inflation, accelerated automation, declining consumption, and shrinking business confidence. And the most dangerous part is that the political system seems unable or unwilling to respond. Cautious economists warn that if this trend continues, the United States could face a social crisis comparable to the 1970s. Prolonged unemployment, extreme inequality, and a population increasingly frustrated. Meanwhile, the country grows more divided. The tech-oriented coasts live disconnected from the reality of the interior. Large cities sustain themselves on debt and speculation, while small communities that once embodied the American dream are emptying out. The challenge facing the United States is not only economic, it is moral. Because every layoff, every closure, and every factory that goes dark represents a collective loss. The most powerful country on the planet is losing more than jobs. It is losing its sense of purpose. Can Trump reverse a crisis that expands day by day? Can the American economy recover its balance without continuing to sacrifice its own people? Like and subscribe to Critical Point to understand how power reshapes the world.